Hello and welcome to this vocabulary lesson for Elizabeth Barrett Browning's Sonnet 29, I Think of Thee, which is part of the Love and Relationships poetry cluster for AQA GCSE literature. So this lesson accompanies the analysis, the presentation video lesson that I've done on the poem, and it focuses on some of the key vocabulary that may be challenging or unfamiliar to you. So it's a good idea to run through this exercise before you watch that lesson, or once you've completed the lesson, it would be an idea to complete this lesson so that you can consolidate what you've learned. Right, so first of all, I'll explain a little bit how the process works, how the vocab exercise works. I've identified here 5 different layers of familiarity. We might identify words as being, we're really familiar with those. We might, colour code that as green. There's the kind of olivey colour there when you're fairly familiar with the language. Yellow is that medium where you know pretty much what it is in certain contexts, and you may occasionally use it, but it's really the language that we'd identify as red or amber here in this scale. Language we're really unfamiliar with that is going to be useful to focus on. So I picked out 6 adjectives used in the Sonnet 29 analysis. There's biblical, floral, barren, archaic, phallic and ambiguous. So it'll be an idea for you initially to think, okay, is there any red or amber language there? Are any of those words there entirely unfamiliar to you? So if you've got some paper, you'll need some for this exercise. It would be useful to jot down the words that you're really unsure of for now. Okay, we're now going to move on to the actual exercise itself, and it's a simple matching exercise where I'd like you to match these adjectives to the definitions that appear on the screen. So first of all, which of these words means having more than one meaning? If you could jot down the word that you think is the answer for that definition. And then which word means related to or from the Bible? And then which word means something that resembles or represents a penis? And then which word means lifeless or land unable to grow much vegetation? Which adjective means old-fashioned or no longer in use? Finally, which adjective means it's something to do with flowers? Okay, these are the answers. So if you were incorrect on any of those matching exercises there, then that's the language we need to really focus on trying to become familiar with and trying to learn. So there are a number of strategies I suggest that you can use to do that. So identify the word or words that you'd like to focus on. And then choose 1, 2 or 3 of these different strategies to be able to develop that familiarity. The first is to write a multiple choice quiz question about your target word's meaning. So what is the meaning of floral? And then offer 3 suggestions of only 1 correct answer. And you could quiz somebody with that, a classmate, a parent, sibling, someone around, so you get some interaction on that. And that will help to make those definitions stick. Okay. Another useful strategy is to build a bank of synonyms. That means words that mean the same. So you could use a thesaurus for that, an online thesaurus or actual paper copy. Similarly, a bank of antonyms. That means words that have the opposite definition, the opposite meaning. Just to give you some familiarity around the key word. Another strategy is the visual design to illustrate the word. Create some visual poster to symbolize or represent the meaning, to help that definition stick. Perhaps the most useful might be I would think for me, would be to use the word in a sentence. If you're unsure of how it might function, then you can always Google how is and then the target word, for example, floral, or how is floral used in a sentence for help, and you'll get some examples then. And finally, perhaps most simplistic, but it is effective, is to speed write the word for 90 seconds and quiz yourself how many times can you legibly write it. So working through a couple of those strategies for the target vocabulary will help you develop familiarity with it, and that will make the analysis and the lesson on the poem a little easier to engage with initially. Okay, so other than the target vocabulary, I've also identified where it's necessary some of the key subject terminology. That's a key part of the mark scheme, and it's something that students often forget to include. To be able to progress through the mark scheme, students need to make sure that they're hitting all the assessment objectives, and one of those specifies using subject terminology accurately. So this is some of the new terminology perhaps for this analysis. The love poem form of the sonnet, 14-line poem with a set rhyme scheme. This poem is a sonnet, so it explains as there's subtext. The poem has meanings beneath the obvious, beneath the surface. So that's called a subtext, that's beneath the text. Sub, that prefix meaning beneath or below, like submarine. Plosive is a word that describes the sound created by consonants P, B, T, D, K, G in their phonetic form. So it's that P, B, T, D sound effect of those consonants, and that's called plosive, and it's an effect that's created by using a combination of words featuring those consonants, and it's something that Browning does in this poem. Onomatopoeic, the adjective from onomatopoeia, you may be familiar with. So a word that makes the sound of the sound it describes. Like a word like pop, it actually describes the sound of something going pop, doesn't it? Iambic is a subject terminology to do with poetry rhythm, and it means a sequence of two syllables, the first being unstressed. That means it doesn't have a lot of heavy emphasis, and then the second being stressed, and it's a very common rhythm used in poetry, and it's used to create a rhythm and a momentum in poetry. So each of those terms will be used in the model essay, and I would encourage you to become familiar with this language so that you're able to use it in your own writing. Okay, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to check the actual lesson itself. And of course, there is the accompanying ebook of worksheets that will set you through a sequence of progressive exercises so that you can master a grade 7, a grade 8 and a grade 9 response to this poem, and indeed the others in the Love and Relationships Poetry Cluster. Thanks for watching Literature Revision Systems.